Scott just made the point.
Thomas Jefferson, you'll
seems to be a lot more secure, not just.
It's the Cheshire Cat of international politics, a nice enough, productive, mostly civilized, completely schizophrenic creature called the European Union. It's not very big either, as you can see in this global projection, created by the Treaty of Maastricht in 1993 or the Treaty of Rome in 1958. Even their Wikipedia page can't make up their mind about what it really is or when it was created. The EU claims to have the world's largest GDP. Now, when it suits the EU, usually when it's trying to show off against the United States, it acts as if it's a real country. But when it doesn't suit it, at the Olympics, let's say, or at the United Nations, then it's back to Germany, France, Britain, Belgium, Italy, Spain, and all the rest. It's all very convenient. But there's a little fright behind that hanging superior smile these days. So let's bring in Mad Hatter Steve Green and March Hare Scott Ott to unlock the looking glass. And I can already feel this segment's getting way out of control. So lads, let's batten down the hatches, because European Commission President, whatever that is, Jean-Claude Juncker, has said that the EU's foreign policy isn't being taken seriously because the superstate with the world's largest GDP has not deigned to pay for, a military. The American taxpayer having provided the military for both the first and second largest world economies. Things were pretty rosy for 70 years or so over there. But now that Russia apparently did not get the memo about the end of history, our European cousins, who so overwhelmingly came out in favor of Barack Obama, now discover to their dismay that our very own Euro-Winnie socialist commander-in-chief won't defend them anymore. Not can't, won't. So, Steve, all of this would be hilarious if it weren't heartbreaking. I'm reminded once again of a certain German word here.
I'm guessing you mean Schadenfreude, although
that's it.
In the case of how Germany is kind of tying the EU around its little finger, at least fiscally, Anschluss might be another good German word we could haul out of history's dustbin there. Maybe that was too far. If so, I apologize. Look, the EU, this idea of a European Union army on the face of it is a joke. The European Union started off as the coal and steel community, a bilateral treaty between Britain and France, and I think the Benelux countries were added at the time or slightly later, and then Italy came in. And what it was a way for them to combine their steel and coal industries through free trade to avoid future wars. And everything they've done up to and since then is to try and integrate Europe further and further to try and avoid wars. But let's look at an actual European warfighting organization, NATO, which has long outlived its premise and its usefulness. NATO countries have a pledge to spend 2%, a measly 2% of GDP on their defense. We spend 4.5 to 5, and even ours is trending downward. But in the Cold War, we were getting up to 7, 8, 9% of GDP on defense, because that's what a serious country spends if they want to have a serious military. Germany can't manage much more than 1%. They've got soldiers training with broomsticks instead of machine guns, in a story I just saw a couple of weeks ago. They have helicopters that don't fly, jets that are grounded because they have to scavenge parts to keep the other jets in the air. And this is Germany. This is the country that twice in one century damn near conquered all of Europe. So this idea of a European Union army is a joke on the face of it. And Bill, you say you don't know. You say you don't want to laugh because you got to cry. Oh no, I'm doing both. I really, really am.
Well, Scotty, let's talk about armies. How does the idea of all of the countries in Europe fighting under one banner really strike you?
Well, I love the quote from Jean-Claude Juncker. I'm pretty sure that we shouldn't say his name Juncker, although I like Juncker. Anyway, there's a quote from Jean-Claude Juncker that says that he thinks that the EU needs an army to defend European values. And from my way of looking at European values, I think that should take 2 to 3 individuals to be able to defend those values, as rich as the heritage of European values has been. I don't know if we can do this, if our producer could pull up that picture, that map again. But I think the map probably says more than anything of what we can expect would be the results of an EU army. And maybe they can, there it is. Okay. When I looked at that thing, the only thing that I saw, I didn't realize it was a map of the world with the European countries. I thought it was a picture of a road-killed cat.
Oh, dude.
And I'm pretty sure that that would be the result of an EU army. Now, On a practical basis, at the very least, I think the European Union should get together and give us all their money for the fact that not only did we liberate them, but we've protected them all these years and they haven't had to spend a nickel on it, so they've been able to have their little fantasy experiment with socialism. As soon as they have to start defending themselves, you'll find socialism going out the window.
Yeah, we just backbill them for our national debt and we'll call it square. You know, my friends, during the Civil War, the American Civil War, the big one, during the absolutely horrendous Battle of Chickamauga, a Tennessee regiment was lying bleeding on the ground after being decimated by Union infantry and artillery. As the Confederacy's shock troops, those would be Hood's Texans, stepped into the fight, one of the Texans yells, "Rise up, Tennesseans, and see the Texans go in." And in they went, just to get thrashed as hard as their volunteer state cousins, and as they limped back out of the fight in retreat, one of those cousins shouted, "Rise up, Tennesseans, and see the Texans come out." Now, this idea of an EU army is long, long overdue. First, we've been paying for the EU's prosperity for far too long. But second, and more importantly, I don't think they're ever going to be a nation until they go to war together. I mean it, seriously. It's experiences like those on the field of Chickamauga, shared sacrifice and shared horror, and eventually a shared sense of humor, that really willed a nation or two nations together into an actual, real country. For PJTV, I'm Bill Whittle.